The Visits of the Queen of Sheba by Miguel Serrano. Foreword. This book is an extraordinary piece of work, dreams within dreams, highly poetic and most unlike the spontaneous products of the unconscious I am accustomed to, although well-known archetypal figures are clearly discernible. The poetic genius has transformed the primordial material into almost musical forms, just as, on the other side, Schopenhauer understands music as the movement of archetypal ideas. The chief moulding and shaping factor appears to be a strong aesthetical tendency, and consequently the effect upon the reader draws him into an ever-deepening dream, into an ever-extending space and an immeasurable depth of time. The cognitive element, by contrast, plays no significant role. It recedes into a misty background, yet remains alive with a wealth of colourful images. The unconscious, or whatever we designate by this name, presents itself to the author through its poetic aspect, which I envisage chiefly not from its scientific or philosophic aspect, but perhaps more accurately from its religious aspect. The unconscious is surely the pamater, the mother of all, that is, of all psychical life, being the matrix, the background, and the foundation of all the differentiated phenomena we call psychical: religion, science, philosophy, and art. Its experience, in whatever form it may take, is an approach to wholeness, the one experience absent in our modern civilization. It is the avenue, the via regia, to the unus mundus. Carl Gustav Jung. Chapter 1. The Great Mother. In the beginning, the Great Mother looked at herself in a mirror. Then she looked at a second mirror and at a third. In this way, all mothers came into being. The Great Mother had eyes like the depths of an abyss, but the eyes of the other mothers were as blue as the sky. In the ancient city of Amber, next to the temple of Kali, a priest wearing a red tunic, his feet covered with the blood of sacrifices, explained these things to me. And so, I came to know that I had not one mother, but many. Since my life seems to have been so much like an abyss, and to be becoming more and more like one, I am trying to look within myself to discover the coffin of the original Great Mother. I will open it, and inside I will probably find that she has taken the form of somebody else. Perhaps she will be the Queen of Sheba, possibly even Jesus Christ. Whatever form she takes will be the form of my soul. Of course, when one opens a coffin, one destroys it. Nevertheless, a delicate odour of cedarwood will come forth. Chapter 2. The River. Once I went to Mount Kailas, where the great god Shiva lives. I watched him dance, and he taught me how to dance and how to forget. As a result, I dance one day in the sun and another in the shade. Since going to Mount Kailas, I have become like a river which cannot be held back. I then came down from the sacred mountain, high in the Himalayas, beyond the rain line, and went on to Cape Comorin, where the waters of 3 ancient seas are joined together. And I saw that there were temples in both places. I came to know that I had not one mother, but many. Chapter 3. The Story of the Moonstone. The ring you see on my finger is a moonstone. When the third moon fell upon the earth, it fell into the sea. Sinking into the waters, it sent up bubbles, like the last breath of a drowning man. These bubbles became moonstones. Centuries later, when the glacial ices retreated toward the poles, leaving Ariana abandoned and the sunny city of Avalon turned into a city of death, the first human beings, men with blue eyes and blonde hair, risked their lives in the waters to gather moonstones. They set them in their stone daggers and placed them upon their foreheads so that they might see the ancient city of dawn, called Ariana, and the former city of the sun, called Avalon. In this way, the moonstone became the third eye, showing men what their blue eyes could not see. The men of those early times were called walkers of the dawn, and their women, whose hair was also blonde and whose eyes were deep blue like the waters where the moonstone was found, were called guardians of the dawn. These women placed the moonstone between their breasts. In time, the men went to their women for the moonstone so that they might contemplate the city of dawn and the city of the sun. If they did not perish in the wild torrents of water, they were lost between the white breasts of their women. This is the story of eternal love. Born among the ices, soon mixed with dreams of death and of a new dawn. The first heroes were those who surrendered themselves to the holocaust of love. As they died, they caught a last glimpse of the city of dawn and felt, for the final time, the milky lightning of the moon. The first conquerors of the earth, on the other hand, were those who refused love and instead chose as their symbol the white fleece of the ram. Following a messiah, they marched over the earth and made it their own. What they sought was an Avalon of this world. For them, the moonstone had a different meaning. They placed it between their eyes as they held their daggers in their hands. Their messiah, whose name changes with the ages, was to them merely the first walker of the dawn. Their true emblem was the ram's fleece. When I first looked at the moonstone, a wise man told me what it signified. It points two ways, he said. One leads to perdition, although it pretends otherwise, while the other leads you to an empty oasis where men stand alone upon the ices holding their battle swords. To survive, you must be brave. You must seize the stone dagger and kill eternal love. For many years I followed his advice and tried to stifle the love within me. I wandered far and wide over the earth. I watched the morning star and believed I had discovered the city of dawn. In the end, I became a pilgrim. My skin grew dry and my hair fell to my shoulders. I joined an ancient tribe of wanderers and walked with them across the earth. We all carried stone daggers and worshipped the moonstone. First we wandered toward the Antarctic ices near my own homeland. There we met an ancient prophet who guided us. He seemed the reincarnation of some holy man. We also had a dog with us who helped guide us toward the primeval oasis. At the crucial moment, I weakened. The howling of the winds and the wailing of the dog brought to mind the calm voice of eternal love, and I fled. For a short while I sought peace by the edge of the sea. But in the end I rejoined my former comrades. Together we traversed the earth, fighting battles, capturing cities, visiting ancient temples where pagan rites are still practiced. I tried to give up everything. I took up the burden of the cross and even tried to make it rotate like the holy swastika. There was nothing I did not attempt to kill the love within me and to find the ancient city that existed before love began. Finally, I came to India. There I began to worship Sheba. I tried to subdue my will to his. I prostrated myself before his altar and remained perfectly still for years, seeking to recover the lost vision of the city of dawn. Though my body remained still, my mind wandered across the southern ices. Once more I was with the warrior pilgrims and their stone daggers. Others were with me, beggars and kings alike. For everyone in the ancient India of Shiva knew that only by abandoning the body could the city of dawn be attained. That is why there are so many abandoned bodies along the roads of India, and that is why, in India, the heat of the sun burns the ram's fleece. Often I remembered the dog that had given up its soul to guide us through the icy wastes of the south. I was reminded of it by the howling of the many dogs in India. But now the sound was different, as if mourning its lost fleece, as if it had ceased to be a symbol and had begun to feel and therefore to weep. Then one day, as I knelt beside the bed of a dying girl to whom I was telling the story of the moonstone, love suddenly returned, overthrowing all my asceticism and turning me onto the other path suggested by the stone in my ring. I felt robbed of all I had gained. My body was returned to me, but my soul was destroyed. By then, my body had half withered away from the many years spent by the sacred mountain of the Lord Shiva. I went down to the holy lake called Manasarovar, which lies beside Mount Kailas. There I washed with care, and moving toward the center of the lake, submerged my body into the depths of the sacred waters. As it drowned, it sent forth its final breath, exactly like the breath of the moonstone. After a time, it rose again to the surface, now combined with the body of the dog that had died years before in the Antarctic ices. My new body bore the head of that golden-haired dog. Now I no longer hear its anguished howl, wailing for its lost body. I have abandoned the teachings of the wise man. I have exchanged the stone dagger for the flute. Now I sing the old songs of the sun and dance to music. Long ago I threw the ring into the sea, for now I seek the city of dawn among the breasts of beautiful women. I am ready now for the altar of the goddess Kali. I am dying. But as I expire, like a hero who no longer searches for Avalon in the distance, I find that, without my willing it and without my hoping for it, a moonstone begins to appear between my eyebrows. Chapter 4. Parvati. One day, as she passed along the road outside my house, she smiled at me. Her teeth were even and white, but her smile was hesitant, like the reflection of sugarcane in a river gently stirred by the wind. Then, on an afternoon some days later, she came to my study, where I keep a stone statue of Shiva. This statue shows Shiva with his eyes closed, as though he were dreaming. He observes only what passes within the interior of his mind. He appears to be listening for the sound of approaching steps that may lead to the top of the tree of paradise, or even to within sight of the city of dawn. The statue also portrays Shiva's ambiguous smile. There is one smile for love, another for hatred, and a third for both. Shiva always smiles in this manner. His smile is a mixture of pleasure, misery, and ecstasy. And there, at the foot of the statue, stood the beautiful girl called Parvati, who also smiled. She was tall and strong. Her hair and skin were dark, and she looked like a woman from Bengal, and also as though she had come from that ancient region once touched by Atlantis, which had rested quietly beneath the flood. For that is the real India. There the deserts begin, and there the cobra forests, the mountains of Assam, the sea of Orissa, and the living stream of the Brahmaputra all meet. Standing by the statue, Parvati began to remove her sari, and as she did so, she revealed a body that seemed to come from another world. The aroma that came from her was like a mixture of sugarcane and sweet wine, of jasmine and dreams, of sky and river. It was something like fine rich tea or sandalwood. I went quickly to her and kissed her open mouth. At first, she received my kiss like a nervous child, but when I began to caress her, she became agitated, like the islands of Atlantis rising from the sea and revealing buried cities, forests, and fields. As her perfume encompassed me, I felt my old world buried beneath this new flood. And among strange words from remote epochs, among sighs echoing from dead civilizations, I moved my hand toward the moonstone that hung between her breasts, upon that ancient sacrificial altar, so that I might glimpse the city of dawn. And as I died there, I turned to the statue of Shiva to thank him for the gift of this woman. "Thank you," I cried, "for having given me this marvellous creature. Thank you for this gift wrapped in sandalwood and blue sky, this gift that represents all India. Thank you for this extreme good fortune." Stretched out side by side, we looked at and caressed one another, speaking without words. Little by little, her eyes became soft and gentle, like those of a virgin or those of Kanyakumari, the virgin princess of Cape Comorin at the extreme end of India, where the waters of 3 great seas meet. The aspect of Kali, the devouress, disappeared and became only a dream locked away in the dismal depths of the subconscious. Then she rose, and when I asked her who she was, she told me her name was Parvati. At that moment, the head of the statue seemed as though it wished to move, as though Shiva himself might observe what was happening and awaken from his dream. Of course, this girl also knew that Parvati is Shiva's wife. I pointed to the statue of the god and said, "See how he smiles at you. He truly is your husband." "No," she replied, "you are." And at that moment I was ready to believe it. Then she went away. My wife from Atlantis, my Indian wife, my wife for that day, for she was all in one, walked slowly like a queen, as all true women of India walk, away from me. I shall never see her again in this life, for I do not know who she was or where she came from. One day she passed along the road outside my house and spent an evening with me. I gave her part of my life so that I might touch the moonstone and see the city of origins, and that is all there is. I had fallen asleep beneath the statue of Shiva, and I dreamed that he spoke to me. He told me that in Bengal, where the hills are full of snakes, he was called An and his wife Uma. "It is simply a question of names," he explained. "I have so many that I can easily give you Parvati, keeping Uma for myself, and you may be Shiva if you wish, for I can always remain An." He then spoke to me of the Brahmaputra. "That river can teach you everything," he said. "Day after day the water goes by. What you see today is lost and gone tomorrow. Yet although the water disappears, the river remains. Therefore its source is eternal. It is renewed in the deep springs of the earth and from the melting snows of the high mountains. There is a central force in the world that is never spent or exhausted. It is found in many places, in the high mountains and the oases of the ices, as much as in the breasts of Parvati or Uma. Even if you die 1,000 times, if you die loving truth, you will be like the Brahmaputra and you will always return. Therefore, it is important to be calm like the waters of the river and not to be possessive. Parvati has gone away, but it does not matter that the wife of one day is lost, for other days will bring other Parvatis. The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to the place where he arose. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Unto the place from whence the rivers came, thither they return again. I awoke with my face turned toward the stone statue, and as I watched it, I felt I was told many more things. The sea is in your veins, it said. Looking at the smiling face of the statue, I realized its smile was like Parvati's at the moment of pleasure, a smile of love as much as of hate, of divine ecstasy and of death, of carnal and sacred love. Thus Parvati had laughed and cried in my arms, prayed and cursed, loved me and despised me, all within a few moments. Yet she bore the same wise and true expression as the stone statue, for the sea was in her veins as well. Then, without taking my eyes from Shiva, I murmured an answer to his teaching. No, I said, I am no river. No sea runs in my veins. I am not ready for that. I must dream more. I must be caught again in your net and burn my wings. Let me have her once more. Make her walk again along the path outside my house. Let me be overcome by her perfume. Let me drown myself in her eyes. Let me lie upon her sacrificial altar and die as I behold the moonstone once again. Shiva neither moved nor spoke, only the mournful smile remained. Then it fell like a drop of water slipping through the night, and trembling I understood its meaning. You will have her again, and you shall find her, but only within yourself and not from without. Sadly I bowed my head. I have become like a river which
Chapter
cannot
5.
The visits of the Queen of Sheba. Set me as a seal upon thine heart, as a seal upon thine arm, for love is strong as death. My belief in reincarnation first brought me to India. Since I have no proof of it, I cannot be certain of this belief, yet I accept it as true and carry on in a dreamlike fashion. So it goes for days and months. And then, suddenly, the Queen of Sheba appears to me, and I know that my belief is true, for when she comes, I feel a certainty. I know that my values are right. Usually, I do not realize this truth until after she has left, which is probably natural, since only in absence do we recognize and yearn for one another. Only after she is gone do I know that my vague notion of reincarnation is true, and that my soul is as old, or almost as old, as hers. The concept of reincarnation is curiously ironical. One would imagine that two persons who had been intimate for 5,000 years would recognize each other immediately when they meet. Yet they do not. At first there is always a little tension, almost a kind of hostility. This is surely peculiar when one considers how much there is in common between them. Between us, for I speak of the Queen of Sheba and myself, we have had so many nights of love. We share so many happy memories, and also so many sad ones. One would think we would recognize each other at once. Yet at first she always seems distant, and I am almost irritated. Afterward, I find it strange that I did not throw myself at her feet and weep for joy, that I did not grasp her hands and gaze into her eyes. Yet I never do. It is as though I am always only half awake when we meet to exchange gifts. To be sure, the mist lifts a little when we repeat the splendid pattern of our love, and I say to her, thy twin breasts are like two young roes that are twins, which feed among the lilies. Thy lips, O my spouse, drop as the honeycomb. Honey and milk are under thy tongue, and the smell of thy garments is like the smell of Lebanon. My speech may be music, but to me it is only a distant echo reverberating in memory. 5,000 years ago, the Queen of Sheba lived in Sumeria, along the sunny valley of the Euphrates. When she died, her head was sheathed with gold leaf, and she was buried in Ur. One would think I would recognize her when she comes. But my memory is so poor that only her eyes seem familiar. Over the millennia, the colour of her eyes may have changed, but their quiet expression never does. They always appear faintly puzzled at the idea that her body should turn to dust when she still had so many thousands of years to live. One day, archaeologists found her head in Ur and placed it in a museum. After her last visit, I had a photograph taken of this head so that I would not forget it. Yet even this was naive. It would only help if the Queen of Sheba were to visit me in this life, in this incarnation. But the Queen of Sheba has already come and gone. Greater grief hath no man. Who is this that cometh out of the wilderness like a pillar of smoke perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, with all powders of the merchant? As it happened, I was praying when the queen came. I was concentrating on the syllable om, the beginning and the end, the note upon which the Lord Brahma created the world. The syllable must be pronounced with total concentration of body and soul. When the meditation is properly performed, the body begins to feel a soft smarting sensation, and the fingertips begin to tingle. At that stage, I seemed to hear the distant chanting of a Hindu family carrying a dead relative to the sacred river Jumna. On the bank, the sandalwood pyre would be waiting. It would be set aflame while the relatives sang to Rama and to the shepherd Krishna, whose skin was blue. There was no unhappiness, only a grain returning to the field, a drop of water rejoining the eternal stream. "Oh, Bhagawan, Bhagawan!" Then suddenly she entered and sat beside me. I was surprised. She was interrupting my prayer. I tried to turn away and return to OM, but something compelled me to look at her. She was not obviously beautiful, but her eyes were luminous and at the same time dark, like a shadow surrounded by sunlight. Paradoxically, this shadow, which suggests tombs and decay, made her appear young. I could not concentrate on her face. Instead, I looked at her hands. It was strange that fingers buried for centuries beneath desert sands should radiate such beauty and passion. Softly, she began to sing. "Return, little flower of dust, rise at the sound of the flute, and dance with the golden-horned god. Spring comes again to our island. The grapes are prepared for the bull. When the harvest comes, remember the flute of the child god our Lord." As she sang, I recalled the priestesses of Crete who worshipped the sacred Minotaur in the blue Mediterranean. Suddenly I became happy and forgot the syllable OM. I felt the music of a flute within me, played by those same fingers once buried beneath desert sands, the same fingers as those of the blue god, given vitality by golden grapes as in the springtime of Ur. Then quietly I spoke. "Are you a pilgrim," I asked, "in search of the fountains of life? If so, go to Banaras or to Mount Kailas, the dwelling of Lord Shiva at the roof of the world." She did not answer. She moved closer and offered her first gift, a golden cape, like the ceremonial robe of an ancient Maharaja of Udaipur. "This belongs to you," she said. When I touched it, I recognized it. It was mine. I entered the hall of sacred paintings and gazed upon a Tibetan tanka of the tree of life. At its summit, Padmasambhava embraced his goddess. They were one. The tears of joy became the fruit of the tree, grapes distilled by the flute of the blue god. I took a silver-embossed cane, shaped like a shepherd's staff, like a serpent, its handle carved as a lion's head with emerald eyes. At its centre, a ruby marked the third eye. I gave it to her. "This has always been yours." She caressed it as though touching the flute of Shiva, the lingam of the sun. She closed her eyes. For the first time I saw her face clearly. Her forehead shone like the moon, sheathed in gold, her hair damp with frankincense and myrrh. I wanted to worship her, but I could not, for I still did not wholly recognize her. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. Across the harbour from Bombay lies Elephanta Island. Within its cave temples stands the Trimurti, Shiva as god, goddess, and sun. Once it was Tetramurti. The fourth face, the son of death, was cut away. It gazed backward toward Ur, toward Mohenjo-daro, toward Avalon. The secret remains. In stone, Shiva dances, bisexual, whole. Here, the Queen of Sheba returns. The stone faces dream of her, but in a three-dimensional world she may come, never to stay. Greater grief hath no man. That night she led me to the shores of Madras. We lay beneath the stars. She said, "It has not changed." I rested my head upon her lap. Our bones recognized one another. Children came. They danced. They vanished. A fisherman appeared, playing a flute. We slept. That night was another day. Stay me with flagons. Comfort me with apples. For I swoon from love. At dawn the tide touched our legs. I spoke the song of songs into her ear. Then the impossible happened. We became one. I was she. She was I. Now I wish to be a river like the Ganges, welcoming everything, moving toward the sea. I learned this from the body of the Queen of Sheba. This was her second gift. One night in November I dreamed of a white flower. When I woke it lay upon my golden cape. This was her third gift. Awake, O north wind, outside drums beat, bodies burned. The morning star rose, greater joy hath no man. Chapter 6. The Brother of Silence. He first came some years ago and told me that he wished to listen to my silence. In the manner of the country, he uncovered his feet and sat with crossed legs in a corner of the room. There he remained for a long time until evening came and I could no longer see his face. He had a small dog with him, curled upon the hem of his Tibetan monk's robe. With the coming of dusk, he began to tell me his story. He comes from Almora, the gateway in the Himavat that leads to Mount Kailas. He likes to stay there and listen to the silence that comes from the Himalayas. He was not born in Almora, however, but much farther north, by the side of the sea, where the moonstone rose from the water. There he used to sit on the beach and listen to the silence of the sea. But people did not understand him there. And so he had to leave, in search of a place where he would not be molested in his attempt to discover the language of silence. Thus Sunya Bai, the brother of silence, went to Tibet, the best place in the world for silence. There he lives, conducting a silent dialogue with the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas. Occasionally he comes to Delhi, but only when he believes it necessary to begin a special dialogue in silence with some particular person of whom he has been told in the Himavat. Perhaps that is why he came to see me. At any rate, he asked me not to speak, and merely sat down in his Tibetan robe with his dog and listened to my silence. Soon he was conversing with my soul without my knowing it. Finally he spoke. He told me that he was not interested in what human beings say with words, only in their silence. There are people who speak well, he said, but they often have a very bad silence. It is the silence that matters, he explained, because it is a preparation for eternal silence. Then he rose and went to the door. I ran after him and asked his name. He turned, said that he was called Ernest, and went away. It is curious. Only then did I realize that he was a man and not a woman. For a long time I had believed the strangely robed figure to be an ancient woman. In truth, he had no sex at all. For many years I wondered what we had spoken about in our silent dialogue. Time passed, and I still did not know. From time to time he returns unexpectedly and sits in a corner to listen to my silence. The last time he came, he sat in the very place where the Queen of Sheba had sat. Then I understood. He had been speaking of her all along, and I had been asking about her return. I looked up and saw that Ernest was smiling. Last night he came for the final time. He was alone and remained standing throughout his visit. In his hand he carried a pilgrim's staff. He told me, through his silence, that he was travelling to Sikkim, and that although he was 70 years old, he felt 70 years young. He also told me that his dog had died. Of course he did not speak. I learned these things through his silence. I then told him of my own dog, the one I had met in the Antarctic. He replied that he felt sorry for those who do not realize that dogs are not truly dogs. His own, he said, had told him that he would be reincarnated in Sikkim, and that was why he was going there to find him. He said that he and his dog were complementary. He will take the body of a dog to complete mine, he told me, and I will continue in this body of a youth of 70 to complete his. He does not see colours, and so I help him with that. But he sees God in sense, and I cannot yet do that. I was deeply moved. Have you already reached the top of the tree of life? I asked. Are you perhaps Padmasambhava? Is that why I did not know you were Ernest when we first met? Now I see him far away in the mountains, walking, calling for his dog. He speaks to trees, to animals, to birds. They understand him because he knows the language of silence. Have you seen my dog? He asks. A very small dog with long blonde hair, or perhaps it is dark. What is his name? They reply. I believe, he answers, that it is Sulamite, or young fawn, and he must be grazing among the white lilies. Return, return, that we may look upon thee. Chapter 7. Footsteps in the Sand. I have come back to the beaches of Madras. It is many years since the night I heard the fisherman playing his flute here, yet much remains familiar. Walking barefoot across the sand, I gaze at the sea. It exhales a heavy vapour, breathing like some strange prehistoric beast. In the distance, the sun is setting, the pale moon is rising. I do not look at the horizon. I look only at the sand, searching for lost footsteps. Of course, I do not find them. Has the surface of the world changed over the years? Does it change once in every century? Not far from the beach, there are trees that once bore milky flowers among their branches. When I was here before, I climbed their high limbs to gather those flowers. The thick liquid that oozed from their stems was like the moisture she remembered from the crushed grapes of the valley of Ur. Now the trees are bare, the branches are dry. Only the roots, hidden beneath the ground, still retain moisture. As night falls, I lie down on the beach and listen to the deep rumble of the sea. In the moon's white light, it seems to speak to me. I place my ear against the sand. Its heart must be beating next to mine, I think. For that is what happened when we sang the old songs here long ago. Then, as if in a trance, I reach out for her, the one the years engulfed so long ago. In the blackness of night, I seem to feel her fingers join with mine, entwined by the flower of the tree of paradise. I fall asleep beside the sea. Between dreams, I think I hear the voice of a child singing. The mandrakes are loosening their perfumes. Suddenly, I see the blue god dancing over the sands to the rhythm of a flute. Blue and naked, he comes toward me. He is both young and old, both man and woman. Golden horns rise from his head. His flute is garlanded with feathers and flowers. He looks at me with a familiar smile. Without pausing in his song or his dance, he points to a place close beside me. As his golden fingernail rises and falls in the night, he exclaims, "Exche! Then he disappears. But the moon remains, casting a palpitating light upon the sands. These sands are like the desert, I think, and her feet must have walked here over the centuries, leaving their imprint. Then, without knowing why, I begin to dig at the place indicated by the blue god, the heavenly shepherd. Deep beneath the surface I uncover a footprint, but there is blood there, and the foot has been badly bruised." Chapter 8. The Return of the Queen of Sheba. The Kulu Valley, known as the Valley of the Gods, lies deep within the Himalayas. It takes a long time to reach it. The road passes through gentle hills covered with pine forests and fig trees. Flowers grow in the ravines, but the apples are sour. High above the road, on snow-capped mountain peaks, live the Gadis. They are nomad shepherds now, but once belonged to the warrior caste and are believed to have come from Rajasthan. They resemble ancient Greeks, white-skinned, wearing white caps and long robes knotted at the waist with braided cords. Crossing the Rotang Pass at more than 13,000 feet, the road leads to Lahul and Spiti, crosses the rain line and enters Tibet. There the light turns the mountains purple. Barefoot pilgrims are always walking the steep paths. Along the roadside are stones inscribed Om Mani Padme Hum, left behind by pilgrims and lamas. The last village before the pass is Manali. This town and the whole of the Kulu Valley is inhabited by a happy pagan people. Like the Gadis, they came here fleeing the Mughal invasion. They seem pure Aryans, yet their rites are older still, perhaps Dravidian, perhaps from the Indus Valley, perhaps even from Atlantis. Throughout the Valley of the Gods, the skin of the people is strange, white like the Aryans, yet spotted as though touched by the night that overwhelmed Atlantis, or by the dark complexion of the goddess Kali. All the inhabitants of the valley have syphilis. It is endemic, passed from generation to generation, yet no one appears harmed by it. They seem like gods, joyful, beautiful. Perhaps syphilis has made them gods, or perhaps gods are not affected by disease. They worship the ancient rishis, each village having its own. Manu Rishi, B.S. Rishi, Gautama Rishi, Vashist Rishi, Kartik Swami Rishi, and many others. When they are not working in rice paddies or picking apples, they beat drums, play flutes, sing, and dance through the pine forests. The women wear red kerchiefs and brightly coloured petticoats. High on the mountainsides where goats are herded, they invite passers-by to make love, passing on their gaiety and their disease. Their eyes are immensely bright, deeply suggestive. As they bend over rice paddies, they sing to the wind. "O Mother, even Brahma and Indra, even all the devas in heaven, even those who drank the nectar that removes fear, all must one day die. Only Shiva, who drank the deadly poison, does not die because of the greatness of his ear ornaments." In the evening, the valley resounds with cymbals and dancing. As the rhythm increases, people descend from the hills and gather from distant villages. A procession forms, carrying the god Manu Rishi, lawgiver of ancient times, now reduced to a crude wooden doll. He is impotent. He failed to bring rain. The people punish him. They carry him to a forest temple and imprison him there until rain falls. The interpreter leads the procession, wearing a mountain coat and braided straw cap. He dances a pantomime, struggling with the litter as though the god resists. By the time they reach the temple, he is exhausted. Inside, all fall silent. Only the interpreter moves. Sweating, trembling, he falls to his knees and cries, "O chaste one! Only thy spouse lives at the time of dissolution. All others die. Brahma, Hari, Yama, Kubera. Even Indra's eyes must close. This is the temple of Kali, mother, wife, devourer." The wooden temple stands among pines, ancient, with a curved pagoda roof. Animal bones and deer skulls hang at the entrance. In the courtyard lies a great black rock, polished, older than the temple, stained by Atlantean waters and sacrificial blood. Before it stands a small wooden lingam, adorned with flowers and sour green apples. Manu Rishi is left inside, weeping in terror. The villagers hope his tears will become rain. Outside, the interpreter enters a trance. Drums beat faster, sword dancers whirl. Suddenly, silence. Foaming at the mouth, hair wild, body weaving, he speaks in Kali's voice. The rain will fall when the black wife is possessed by her husband in the midst of her menstrual blood. Only then will it rain. That night I woke shivering, covered in sweat. A dog howled outside. I knew the sound. I rose, opened the door. The moon was full. A drum sounded in the woods. A shadow moved. Harijan, wife of the untouchable, child of God. I led her inside. Later I went out again. It was raining. I ran to the temple of Kali. Inside, darkness. Bats or something else brushed against me. Manu Rishi spoke. "Remember the brother of silence. The earrings of Harijan, they are earnest." Cold rain soaked my bones. I sat with my dog. Sleep came. The doll chanted, "O Father, Mother, begin the great dance. The universe exists, yet not for you." At my spine, coldness. Then my dog licked me. I saw white fire. The serpent of paradise leapt. A moonstone opened in my forehead, the eye of Indra. Footsteps approached. The lingam swelled. The altar became woman. Through the crystal moonstone I saw her, the Queen of Sheba, standing on the black altar holding her silver kundalini. She called me. My dog and I approached. We sang, "Glory to you of three eyes, old and young, father, mother, dog, all things and beyond all things." As shadows swallowed the rock, a new being was formed, with two earrings, male and female, star-shaped, bearing OM. This was the return and the marriage of the Queen of Sheba. Ever since she went away, I've been sitting alone. Chapter 9, The Guest. The illusory figure created upon the black altar is Ardhanarisvara. He wears the androgynous earrings that celebrate the sacred syllable Om, also written as AUM. The meaning of this syllable is as follows. A stands for Brahma, who represents the dawn. U stands for Vishnu, the guardian of noon. And M signifies Shiva, who presides over the night. Ardhanarisvara was formed upon the sacrificial altar by the mingling of blood. The blood of the woman Harijan, my blood, and the blood of my dog. This illusory being was fashioned by the delicate hands of the Queen of Sheba. Hands touched by the madness of God, hands scratched by the sands of the desert. She was sacrificed to create the illusion of Ardhanarisvara, and as her blood mingled with ours, she too died. The marriage has come about. But for a true marriage feast, a wedding guest must be present. He is the one who finally creates the illusion, and who presides over the sacrifice of so many beings. For this reason, there was a guest at this wedding. A figure stepped forward toward the altar and leaned upon a cross around which a serpent was entwined, a serpent with the head of a dragon. Joining the palms of his hands, he began to pray, speaking these words, "Earth covers the feet up to the knees. There kneel the roots of rice. Water reaches from the knees to the abdomen. There the dog licks the soles of the woman Harijan. Fire rises from the stomach to the throat. There the Queen of Sheba lives and dreams. Air envelops the throat and the forehead. There the moonstone grows. What is invisible, that is where I am." Then the guest fell to his knees and wept. "I have joined my hands," he said. "The thumb is fire, the forefinger is air, the middle finger is earth, the fourth finger is water, and the little finger is the sky. When I join all these, I create you, O Ardhanarisvara, because I have sacrificed myself. You and I become one. The Father and the Son are one person. After the marriage comes the marriage feast. At the marriage of the Queen of Sheba, the wedding guest, standing beside the altar of Atlantis, was devoured by the serpent that clung to his cross. This had to be so, for the name of the wedding guest was Jesus Christ. Chapter 10, The Servants. One day, while at a party speaking of all these things, I noticed that someone had left behind a cigarette case. I picked it up. It had many compartments, one of them for cigarette holders. It was old, almost falling apart. One holder was meant for smoking opium. It bore an inscription almost illegible. For a long time I hesitated. Cigarette holders, I thought, are too intimate, too personal to be used by another. I walked up and down, thinking. After a while, a friend approached me. Without my explaining anything, he said, "As usual, you are trying to profit from someone else's work. You are very stupid." At once I understood, and I replied, "I see that you are Melchizedek. You are right. I am stupid. You are not. I have never known the intermediate steps. I am ignorant even of what is essential. There is no use in my studying. I never remember anything. So I must turn to you, because you know. Thanks to your wisdom, the Queen of Sheba returned. But when you die, I shall have you thrown into your pot of chemicals. I confess I am afraid that the Queen of Sheba made of Sheba may discover how much you know." And as I spoke, the orchestra began to play old music. When I finished, I asked him to stay with me and listen. I told him there was a secret rhythm behind the notes, the rhythm of drums played by black hands. "If you remain," I said, "we will create something remarkable." He was an alchemist, and within me I felt everything necessary for the creation of an artificial being. I sensed all the works and days of hands, first the red, then the yellow, then the white, and above them all the black hands, for they played the drums. A dead woman approached us, prophesying, warning, but when we looked at her hands, they were lined. We knew then she was an impostor. Death removes the lines from hands. At that party I understood much. I knew who the servants were. I knew that as we use them, they use us and alter us, as do the black children along the beaches of Madras. I understood that one cannot be everything. One is either a scientist or one who understands essence. One is either Melchizedek or Solomon. As I left, I thanked all the servants, nodding to men and women, children and animals, to all who, since my childhood, had shaped me with multicoloured hands, preparing me for matrimony and for death. Melchizedek was chief priest of Solomon's kingdom, a magician, an alchemist, beloved of Solomon. For many years they worked together, and no auguries disturbed them. Then one day Melchizedek looked toward the desert sky and said, "Who is this that cometh out of the wilderness like a pillar of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense?" He pointed to a distant caravan. Thus he was the first to see the Queen of Sheba. Solomon did not listen. He was busy with justice, the sword suspended over the child. Melchizedek dressed himself, walked all night across the desert, and reached the caravan at dawn. He asked the visitor's name. "She comes," they said, "to seek Melchizedek, the magician, the alchemist." Thus it is true, the Queen of Sheba did not come for Solomon, but for Melchizedek. They met on a hill at dawn between and Solomon. She rode a blue camel. A serpent coiled about her arm. "Why did you come so soon?" she asked. "I expected to find you at your cauldron." Melchizedek looked into her eyes and saw Atlantis. He knew her serpent was the one from Eden. "I have been waiting," he said. "Come, I will give you wine. We shall see what to do with the snake." When he spoke of Solomon, she lowered her head. Her forehead shone like the moon. She stayed long in Melchizedek's house. Solomon knew nothing. Melchizedek worked at his cauldron, amaranth, emeralds, mercury, sapphires, peacock feathers. "From these," he said, "the bird of paradise will be born. Perfume rose, myrrh, sandalwood, jasmine. Can you make a scent that grants immortality?" she asked. "Only if you and the snake enter the cauldron," he replied. The bird appeared, dancing, mad, divine, until it vanished. Melchizedek wept. "We must go on," he said, "or all will be lost." But she hesitated. She had no love for him. She stood naked like a young roe, veils falling, snake near her feet. He reached for her, and a vapour rose, hiding her from sight. The bird flew to Solomon, betraying Melchizedek. Solomon sought counsel. The ancient master spoke, "To love is to forget justice." Solomon to Melchizedek's house. He pushed him into the cauldron. Melchizedek died loving him. From the cauldron rose the Song of Songs. The queen appeared, gifts were exchanged, they sang. Yet Solomon said, "I am not wise, I can only sing." "That is enough," she answered. They entered the cauldron together. From it rose the bleating of a lamb. For the Song of Songs is the bravery of the lamb sacrificed in the burning bush. However fast or slow the Queen of Sheba runs, we will never catch her. Chapter 11, The Lamb. When I was in the ice fields of the Antarctic, I had a sheepdog, not a husky. Unaccustomed to the ice, he died there. Yet while he lived, he guarded the sheep and protected them from thieves. When he died, there was no one left to watch over the lamb. A lamb can survive only when it is protected by a dog. It may seem paradoxical, but no one can kill a dog without killing a lamb along with it. Perhaps they share a kinship through their warm white fleece. And yet, no one ever sacrifices a dog. A lamb is considered sufficient. The relationship between these two animals suggests that the lamb is a dog who has learned to bleat, having mastered the Song of Songs. This is not unnatural when one considers the delicate rose that grows from the bramble bush. The dog lies at the root of our childhood, resting at the base of the cross where instincts sleep. The lamb, however, grows higher along the crossbar and eventually rises to the heights where he finds eternal love and life, the rose and the Queen of Sheba. If life were not so, it would end in disaster. For the Great Mother always consumes the dog and devours the man with her love. She is irresistible. All that can be done is to change the victim, to replace the dog or the man with the lamb. In this way, the dog and the man are saved, though there remains a doubt concerning the salvation of God. The lamb hangs from the cross, his fleece dishevelled, his flesh torn and consumed. It has always been thus, and so it shall be for eternity. Yet the lamb never quite dies. He is always saved by his golden fleece. The small boy was saved from the burning bush. He was neither eaten nor sacrificed. Instead, a lamb was substituted. Meanwhile, the child's dog, his constant companion in the fields, survived and grew old with him. Lamb's flesh will always be food for the gods, wherefore it satisfies the hunger of the mother. This is flesh created in Melchizedek's cauldron, with knowledge from Atlantis, cradled by the Queen of Sheba, and praised by Solomon in the Song of Songs. The lamb is the son of man. It is a flower that grows in the ice floes. It is the fiery rose of the cross. Chapter 12. The Bird of Paradise. This bird has so far been neglected, yet it is of great importance. For through it, one may perhaps go beyond the Great Mother and escape her influence. Born among flames, nurtured by the Song of Songs, it can fly as easily to the heights as to the depths. It may even be that it existed long before man. Its dance is the most serious effort attempted since creation. More than anything else, it gives form to life itself. At dawn, the forest is heavy with shadows. But with the first rays of the sun, the bird of paradise awakens from his perch on a tree branch. He stretches his neck and pecks at the wood with his beak. He is still sleepy. He cannot yet see clearly. Slowly he becomes more alert. He looks from side to side. He seems afraid, perhaps of an attack. He moves his head, glances toward the sun, as though asking for an invitation to life itself. His actions are unconscious. Something inbred in his deepest instincts. He longs for action. He wants to participate. And yet, he is afraid. He has desired what is about to happen. And at the same time, he wishes to avoid it. Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. From childhood, the bird of paradise has had more to do with his father than with his mother. Many creatures share this destiny. As the sun rises higher and the green forest is tinged with gold, the bird flies down from his branch to the earth. The mists of night are drawn upward by the sun's rays. The bird begins to move in circles. Then, within those circles, he traces squares. He pauses. He studies what he has done. He seems intelligent, and yet he is nervous, afraid. He wonders why he remains where he is. He wonders whether he has asked for something that is no longer possible. He suspects he is engaged in a farce, as though consciously deceiving himself, occupying himself with details long since stripped of meaning, why feathers loosen, why leaves fall, and yet one senses that a force has begun to dominate him. Soon he will convulse. His eyes open wide in terror. He thinks of his father. At that moment, wings beat the air. 2 female birds enter the clearing. At first they watch with curiosity. Soon they are astonished. Only yesterday they flew with him, ate with him, loved and slept with him. Yesterday, he showed them the steps of another dance. But today they do not understand. Now he is alone. He has forgotten them entirely. They recognize his voice, yet know it is no longer meant for them. At first they are hurt, saddened as mothers are, then they grow resigned. They watch him with pious expressions. The bird of paradise is unaware of them. He is sealed within a trance, a hermetic dream. He dances on. Under the noon sun he dances. Toward evening he is still dancing. By sundown, a wound opens in his side. The female birds staunch the blood with their beaks. This is an ancient drama. It will repeat itself through centuries. The mothers know they must act or be separated forever by the triumph of the father. Night returns, owls emerge, stars burn in the sky. The next day the bird of paradise begins again. The females return, fascinated by what they also fear. During the following night the bird asks for water. No one gives him any. 2 sores now fester upon his hands. For days the dance continues. He is lost to everything. His eyes are closed to the outer world. They look inward, searching for the secret there. What is about to occur will be witnessed by no one. Even the female birds have departed. Perhaps they have entered the wound in his side. For the first females were born from that place, or perhaps, more likely, they have descended to the depths of the forest to wait. Mother love has the patience of centuries. They believe the bird of paradise has gone mad, that he will soon die. They wait for the moment when they must return to stroke his feathers and consume his flesh. For love is hunger. It is the desire to fuse essences. It is, quite literally, Holy Communion. Once more the bird of paradise flies to the highest branch. There he leans back and turns his face toward the sun. And now, the miracle. From his small, crumpled body erupts a vast mountain of plumes, golden feathers, blue lace, pearls, emeralds, rubies, diamonds. It is the crown of Sheba, the dancing god, a crown of thorns made of suns, stars, and planets. The bird resists the force within him, and at the same time revels in ecstasy. Pierced by mystery, the diminutive yet immense bird of paradise begins to sing. My father and I are one, and another white bird descends from the heavens to kiss him. Chapter 13. The Mass. From all directions the faithful pilgrims move toward Mount Kailas. They have washed in the sacred waters of Lake Manasarovar. They have been baptized by John and have been transformed. Free from sin, they are now ready to sin again. High above, on the summit of the mountain, the Lord Shiva dances. After penetrating the wound of his divine wife, Parvati, he has entered her and become part of her in an eternal embrace. It is for this reason that Shiva dances happily, in light and in shadow. On the other side of the mountain stands the lamasery of Dirapuk. It is night. A young lama is about to celebrate a rite for which he has prepared for 14 years. It will take place only once. Seated on the cold ground, he beats a drum made from the bones of dead men. Again and again he strikes it until all is ready. Then the lama undresses and steps naked into the cold night air. He invokes the Lord Buddha, for he does not worship Shiva by that name, and he chants, Om Mani Padme Hum. He turns toward the 4 quarters, walking from left to right, the reverse of ascent. Ready now to sacrifice himself to the visible and invisible presence, he cries out, Here is my body, eat it. Yet he is afraid someone might come. There are 12 invisible figures, his masters, who taught him this rite and now wait in silence. When nothing happens, he cries out again, Here I am, ready to be consumed. At once the 12 masters fall upon him and begin to devour him. As his skin is torn, he is terrified, but he does not cry out. A leg is lost, then arms, then face, then entrails. Throughout the sacrifice he is in agony. But when it is finished, he becomes calm. He becomes happy. He has grown larger, for he now exists in 12 bodies. Without bones, without blood, without flesh, he knows that he is above, dancing on the summit of Mount Kailas, beyond shadow and sunlight. On another mountain, someone climbs slowly. His body too was washed by John, but when he emerged, he bore the head of a lamb. He carries a cross. From right to left, he ascends the hill. He is paying for a great sin, for he was unable to make it rain. At the summit, he stands with 2 thieves. Once they sought misery only to escape it, hoping to dance in light and shadow. They were simple men. They were 2. Now, with the arrival of another, they are 3. They feel rested. They are no longer alone. And at the end, though they do not hear his words, they will die in peace, the good and the evil alike. 1, 2, 3. But where is the 4th? There, beneath the cross, stands the 4th. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 2 thieves, a redeemer and the mother. 2 thieves, a redeemer and the earth. In truth, they are one person. The Father is not among them. He exists before number. Christ and the mother are the same being. When I opened the coffin of the mother, I found the body of the Queen of Sheba and that of Jesus Christ. When he groaned and died, believing himself abandoned, the mother gave the signal to lower the cross. But they did not lower him without raising the cross itself. The 12 disciples carried it to the tomb, which is truly the altar, and there they ate him while he was still nailed. The mother did not touch him. She had already devoured him. When the women came later, they found nothing. He had already been eaten. They knew this and told no one. When I open the coffin of my soul, I know I am celebrating a mass. I am devouring myself. I am becoming one with the body of the Redeemer. The sacrificer and the sacrificed are always the same. In the sacred rite of the Mass, the priest murders Christ and eats him. The first priest was Melchizedek of Salem, the Lamb of Abraham, the deer of Ramah. He taught me how to mix wine and water, how to drink from the hollow of the Queen of Sheba's hands. He taught me to consecrate my blood by drinking it, to redeem my flesh by eating it. I have pulled out the nails, I have opened the tomb. Inside only bones, so I closed it again. But the air has stirred all ancient memories. My Trinity is not like others. In mine, the son is a daughter. The father is the daughter's husband. I, her brother, walk at her side. I love her secretly. I have married her in secret so that he will never separate us. The three of us walk together, hands joined, happy and suffering, toward a place so distant I cannot see it at all. If I had a white horse, I would be able to catch up with the Queen of Sheba. Chapter 14, The White Horse. If I had a white horse, I would be able to catch up with the Queen of Sheba. The swift horse I need has a rider upon his back, Kalki, who carries a sword and who comes to judge. The mystery of which I have spoken will remain for future generations to resolve. I myself am only beginning to understand it, and that only because of the misery I have suffered since the Queen of Sheba left me. Man in misfortune is always searching. What I seek is something swifter than the Queen of Sheba, a white steed that would allow me to overtake her. Let me try to say this another way. Consider time. Everyone knows what time is. It burns. It is spent. And then there is light. Light, among other things, is a wastage of form. Because it escapes, it is like the Queen of Sheba. Light brings us images and little by little reveals legends. Light is the future, and the end of the future is the final image. It is also the end of time. However fast or slow the Queen of Sheba runs, we will never catch up with her. The light that carries our images toward the cosmos steals our infancy, our youth, our entire life. Between the two thieves, time has us crucified. They are faster than we are. Time pierces us with a ray of light, and in this way exhausts and wastes us. Overcome by these forces, our only hope is Kalki, the rider of the white horse, whose energy is greater than both light and time. If we could climb to a star and move faster than light, we would catch up with the Queen of Sheba. We would regain our lost infancy and arrive at a time before we were born. The white horse and Kalki always ride against time. They gallop toward the past. Thus, instead of growing old, we would grow younger and become eternal. Once the Queen of Sheba is caught upon the ray of a star, she will go no farther. She will join the horse and the rider, and the marriage will be complete. Another way to describe this is to call it the last judgment and the resurrection of the flesh. Light will be judged for having stolen images. The flesh will be revived. Bodies will return to life when their images are overtaken by the white horse galloping toward the past. Everything will exist once more in a quiet, central point where time is finally calm and still. Some believe this miracle will be given by science. I believe it will be given by Christ, for he is the rider of the white horse. He is the one force among us stronger than light. In ancient words, he judged the thieves and pardoned them. He overcame time and caught up with the Queen of Sheba. In truth, he married her and lifted her onto the white horse to ride with him. And so that all this might come to pass, I too have had to marry the Queen of Sheba, to prepare both my weddings and my death. It is exceedingly difficult to explain all this, even with ancient words. Chapter 15, The Last Flower. Even though you are married, you will have to die one day. Everybody has to die. The difference for the married person is this. A youth will come carrying a flower, and he will touch it to your lips and to your forehead. It is also possible that the flower will come alone. If it does, you will leap directly into that flower and remain there. It seems a difficult feat, but it is the result of hard work and of the waiting you have endured throughout your life, especially the waiting for your wedding. In truth, it makes no difference whether the youth comes or not, for the flower you enter is the final fruit of your soul, your ultimate creation. The end.